Sup, guys? 0-1-1 yesterday. Not thrilled about that, obviously. The Brewers-Padres game probably should have been an under. It was a low-scoring game, except for the Brewers putting up a 5 spot in the second inning. It's like, what can you do? King pitched well. I don't think he allowed any runs outside of that inning, and he had like an 8-1 strikeout walk ratio against a pretty good offense, so he didn't pitch poorly. But that second inning alone just ruined the under, although it was a very low-scoring game otherwise. Moving on to today, got to turn this around. Stanley Cup Finals Game 7 is today. I'm not going to have a play on this. This is a weird one, man, with conflicting market signals. Edmonton at Florida. Edmonton has become the first team in the Stanley Cup Finals to be down 0-3 and force a Game 7. So we're in uncharted waters here, man. I mean, obviously Edmonton has the momentum, but we're moving back to Florida. I keep saying I do think Florida's the better team with the better defense, the better goalie. But I also saw reports that Bobrovsky skipped practice yesterday, so I don't really know what that's about. Maybe it's a big deal about nothing. I'm not really going to factor that into the handicap. I just don't know what's going on there. This is a very difficult game to handicap. Florida's down from -114 to -107 on the money line, so the odds makers are lining this like Florida's not even the better team now, which if you're looking for just pure line value, I think that's gone too far. And I think you are getting line value on Florida because obviously they were like a -130 favorite in all the other home games. So there's not really a legitimate reason why the line should be so low on them now. And really not even giving them home ice. That's just a little weird. Florida does have 50% of the cash. So the cash looks like it's evenly split 50-50 despite 60% of the tickets now being on the Edmonton Oilers. So Edmonton has become public now as the public is now kind of chasing recency, basically. I think there might be some recency bias here, but it's just very interesting because obviously, like I said, Edmonton does have the momentum. So is that going to be what carries the day here in this game? I don't know. Obviously, for my rooting interest, I'm rooting against the Florida Panthers because I'm a Bruins fan. So I do not want to see Florida actually be able to do it. But we will see, man. I also was a Gretzky fan back in the day, and he was, of course, one of the best Edmonton players. I think if you're going to play this game at all, I think it makes the most sense to play on the total and to play it under, just like as a blind Game 7 under, because basically when you get down to Game 7s, teams come out and play intense defense, play physically, don't want to screw anything up, even though it is kind of dangerous with two teams that throw a lot of shots on goal and could score a lot. It does seem a little dangerous. The line came out 5.5 juice to the under at -115. It looks like it's now 5.5 juice to the under at -150. So it looks like it's actually slipping down to 5. 52% of the tickets on the under, but 57% of the cash on the under. So more of the cash in the line movement going towards the under. I think that would be the better way to play it out of side and total here, but I'm not going to do that either, especially Bobrovsky being kind of a question mark there. It's difficult, man. It's difficult to come in on this game in any way, really, so we'll see what happens. But rooting for Edmonton, we'll see what happens. Also rooting for them because of all the female fans that have gotten themselves in the public eye. Obviously, the boob flashing chick. Unfortunately, they ain't real, but that stuff makes me kind of want to root for Edmonton as well, just because, hey, why not? Everybody likes boobs. Let's go. Oil it up, baby. MLB, we have a somewhat larger card, actually, than I expected on a Monday. Monday is a shorter MLB card because you have teams traveling and stuff, so not every team plays, but I believe all but 8 of the Major League Baseball teams are indeed playing today, and I've narrowed it down to one single play today, my only play today, and it's going against the market indicators, and I'm just doing it anyway, man. I'm going to play on the Seattle Mariners. You can get them, I believe you can get them as an underdog. That's just going to be the way it goes, man. You can get them, actually the best you can get them at is -108, so that's like an underdog because the books have to charge the VIG, so if they're -108, that basically kind of means that the home team is like -112 or whatever. Tampa looks like they flipped from +100 to -107 according to pregame, although I think they're actually up to like -112 or whatever. So we actually see some movement on the Tampa side. That worries me. Seattle's public because they have the better record with 71% of the tickets on Seattle. and only 67% of the cash. So all the market indicators are going against my play here, which worries me a bit because we got Seattle being a public road, essentially underdog with less of the cash than the tickets and reverse line movement going against it. But I just don't understand it, man, because this is going to be about the situation. I mean, I understand why the Mariners are public. They have the better record overall. Obviously, they've kind of been struggling lately. So I think we're going to be looking for the Mariners to kind of turn things around here. And that's part of this play here. I think the Mariners could kind of be in a bounce back spot here. Whereas Tampa, I don't think is the case. So Tampa has been the hotter team recently. And of course, baseball is kind of streaky, and it is a little bit dangerous to play on a team that's kind of cooled off against a team that's hotter. But I think there are reasons to do it. It kind of surprises me the public is on Seattle to this extent because they usually factor in recency too much, but I guess they're not in this one. We'll see what happens with this one. But Tampa, they're in a bad spot, dude. They're returning home from a long road trip, a 3-series road trip. It didn't take them that far, but it took them to Atlanta, Minnesota. So they went out to the Midwest, and then they came back into Pittsburgh, and they were able to win the series against Pittsburgh and win against Paul Skeens yesterday. So that's kind of a big deal, man. That's kind of a win. They won in dramatic fashion. Tampa with the win, despite having to face Paul Skeens. Tampa was in a 1-1 tie all the way into 8th inning after Skeens had another really good start, but he had to come out of the game, obviously, because he was around 100 pitches. And it came down to the bullpens. Pittsburgh's offense just really was stifled in the game, and Tampa Bay was able to get out of there with a win. And now Tampa's returning home from that. And you know, I always say when a team's returning home from a road trip, especially if it's a long one like this, 3 series, they haven't been home for a while and they have no days off. Having to travel and return home, usually distractions come into play, man, because these are adults. They're fathers, they're husbands, they have family lives to get back to, and you have no time off. You're having to return home. You're having to do things at home while you're actually also trying to prepare for the game. So it winds up being a little bit of a distraction. So I think we got a negative for Seattle there already. The fact that they're returning home from the road trip, negative for Tampa, returning home from the road trip, whereas Seattle, they're already in the middle of a road trip, and they're already in Florida, so they're not really traveling that far. So Seattle has been in the middle of a road trip, and whereas Tampa's coming off a nice series win and big win against Paul Skeens and against Pittsburgh, against like maybe the best rookie pitcher that's out there, so they could be in a little bit of a letdown spot, and they're on kind of a hot streak right now, doing well on that road trip and now returning home. Seattle has been playing bad baseball, losing 4 out of 5, losing 2 series in a row at Cleveland, although Cleveland is the top team record-wise in the AL Central, so you can't really blame them for that. But then they went in and they lost 2 out of 3 at Miami, which that's not good, man. Miami, not a good team. So Seattle, I think they're going to be in a bounce-back spot here, man. That's kind of embarrassing, losing to the Miami Marlins, kind of regardless of who you are. Miami's not good. Seattle has a nice padding in their division, but Houston's kind of catching up to them a little bit. And Houston's a pretty dangerous team still, and so is Texas. So Seattle, I think they might bring some focus into this one, man. They get out of Miami, move on, start a new series against a team that is an AL East team at the very least. So the AL East division, for the most part, is considered good. So a lot of times teams will step it up against any AL East opponent. So I think that's all good. Seattle, like I said, coming off that ugly loss to the Marlins. Both teams used 4 of their relief pitchers yesterday. So I don't really think the bullpens are going to be that much of a factor. And I think due to the overall situation and the fact that I think it's a home distraction and letdown spot for Tampa, I think we make this a full game play. Like I said, both teams used like 4 relief pitchers yesterday. I think Seattle might actually have the slightly better of the 2 bullpens here. So I'm not really that concerned about that. And then it comes down to the starting pitching matchup as well. So I think the situation plus the starting pitching matchup are the factors here, which lends itself to a full game play here. With Tampa being in the return home spot, you tend to want to go full game against those teams to play on the distraction angle. And I think the starting pitching matchup, which should at least factor into like the first more than half of the game, also is in favor of Seattle here. So Seattle, they got Brian Wu pitching. He's been excellent this year, man, really. I mean, there's nothing else that we can really say about that. He's got a 1.67 ERA and a .61 whip. He's been good. I mean, he's not really a strikeout guy, but he is a guy that has a lot of command. He started the season a little bit late, So he doesn't have that much playing time under his belt really yet. I think he has like 7 starts this season, or maybe 8, but it's a decent 7, I guess, it's a decent enough sample size to kind of see what's going on here. We saw indicators that he was going to be a pretty good pitcher last year when he came in as a rookie, and his numbers were pretty decent. Never was really a strikeout guy, but again, like I said, this year he has a 25-3 strikeout walk ratio in 37 2/3. So even though the number of strikeouts isn't impressive, he's more of a control pitcher, command pitcher, comes in and just gets outs and is efficient with his pitches. Doesn't allow a lot of hits. He doesn't put many people on base, man, and that's the big thing. So even though he doesn't mow them down, he's got control, and he's only allowed 20 hits in those 37 2/3 innings. He goes deeper into games than you would think for the amount of pitches that he throws. So he doesn't throw a huge amount of pitches. So it looks like they do still have him on a limited pitch count, but he went 6 innings in 4 straight starts, despite throwing basically in the 70s pitch-wise in most of those games. So he is efficient with his pitches, which is also good. And it is possible Seattle decides to unchain him and let him go 80, 90 pitches or whatever and go a little bit deeper into these games. Maybe. We'll see. But he has not been bad, man. Although he's faced mostly weak offenses. He's faced a couple of stronger offenses in there, like the Yankees, and did pretty well in that one too. So he seems a little bit unfazed. And now I think he might be in a bounce-back spot because he's coming off a bad start against Cleveland, where he gave up 3 earned runs, 4 hits, 1 walk. I mean, still only 5 base runners in 4 innings. That's not the worst, really, but he let 3 of them score. Got taken out of the game, only had 1 strikeout in that one. Cleveland, I mean, they can hit decently, so I'm not going to knock him really for that. And I think, again, like I said, we could see him now at a bounce-back spot. And he's facing a Tampa team that doesn't exactly have the strongest offense either. So I think that's good. And to put a little bit of he's facing, Tampa team. What am I saying? Yeah, he's facing Tampa. I'm all mixed up right now. Yeah, he's facing Tampa. ESPN still shows who the previous team's opponents were. But yes, he's facing Tampa. And to put a little bit of the cherry on top there, Tampa has never seen Wu before. So they have no hitters who have ever faced him before. So as I usually say, when you have a good young pitcher who's got the ability to fool hitters and get outs like this, those hitters tend to have an adjustment period where they don't know what to expect, and they have a little bit of a disadvantage early on against that pitcher and have to figure him out and go through that adjustment. So that's a little bit of an advantage to Wu as well for the first couple of times through the lineup, most likely while he's in there. So I like that as well. So we get a little bit of an advantage there with Wu as well. And I just think he's probably the slightly better of these two pitchers, even though he's not the better strikeout pitcher. I think he's kind of better in all of the other ways. But a little bit worried again because the market indicators are kind of against it here. But again, situation and pitching matchup, I think both kind of lend itself to the play on Seattle. And as I was saying, which I don't think I fully said, Seattle was just in Miami, so they're only traveling within the state of Florida. So they actually have less travel between yesterday and today as well. And they're not at home, so they don't have to deal with the home distractions here. They can just focus on baseball. So I like that. I'd like it better if Seattle was starting a road trip, but they're still starting a new road series coming off a loss to a bad team. So I think Seattle is in kind of bounce-back mode. Should be in bounce-back mode from that. On the other side, Taj Bradley is pitching for Tampa. And yeah, I do think he's not bad. And his ERA is maybe a little bit misleading at 4.06 due to the fact that he also has a 1.15 whip. So the whip indicates that he's better than that ERA would tell you. He's got the better strikeout numbers by far. So that is the one advantage he has. 53 strikeouts and 14 walks and 44 1/3. The walk number is a bit high, but he's only allowed 37 hits, so he's been tough to hit. Decent strikeout walk ratio, but that walk number is high. Like I said, it's just the strikeout numbers are really high too. He's been pitching pretty well as of late as well, so he's got some momentum here, but I think that I prefer Wu to Bradley over in this game, and I prefer, obviously, the spot for Seattle here. So even though it looks like the market is kind of on Bradley here, I think Wu actually might have a bit of an advantage in this one because he hasn't been seen before as well, and Bradley has. And Bradley is at least the wilder pitcher, so even though he's the better strikeout pitcher, he's the one that has the less command as well. And looking at Bradley against Seattle's hitters, we do have a little bit of a sample size to look at here. Seattle has faced him a little bit before, and they're They have 6 guys who have faced him before, and they're 8 for 25 off him lifetime with 5 doubles, 2 home runs, 4 RBIs, 3-1 strikeout walk ratio, but small sample size, but it's still a 320 batting average for Seattle's hitters against Taj Bradley and a 1,106 OPS. So Bradley is the one of these two pitchers who has been seen before, and Seattle has done pretty well against him. So even though Bradley looks like he's putting together, he's a very young guy, and he looks like he's trending in the right direction and putting together a pretty good sophomore season here so far that's better than his rookie season was last year. He was putting way too many people on base and allowing more hits than he is this year. I still think that in this spot, the play is going to be on Seattle here. So that's the only play that I have today. Seattle Mariners minus 108. That's going to do it, man. Let's kick off the week right. Come on. Peace.